just to segue in, I've mentioned this to everyone in the room. So we're about 6 of us in the flesh in our Melbourne Collingwood office. This is the first time we have done an information session in a hybrid form. So we will try our absolute utmost to make it super interactive for the people in the room and then also the people online. Fingers crossed we get through in a smooth ship with not too many technical difficulties, but if they do come, we do apologise in advance. As we go through the webinar, everyone in the room, obviously you could join on Zoom if you like on your phone to post into the chat, but we probably don't need to. We can just throw out to you in person. Everyone online, you can post questions and anything into the chat as well. And we will throw to polls across the webinar as well, or in-person info session. And essentially everything will also be recorded too, so you can relive the magic. We'll share everyone the recording. All the slide packs will be shared as well. And we've got lots and lots of resources that we'll work through. But yeah, really excited to talk about moving to the UK and yeah, hopefully find out a little bit of information about everyone. But yeah, ask questions. It is an information session, so there is a lot of presentation styled format, but we will try and, yeah, like I said, make it as interactive as we can. Awesome. We have a co-host online too. Alessia, if you are online, we can't see you.
She's just in the waiting room.
Oh, she's in the...
I can't edit her. Sorry.
Can we get her in?
I can't edit her because I'm not the host.
That's a bit strange one.
Yeah.
There's no waiting room.
It's okay. I think I was good.
We'll try and get her in. Okay, apologies. So we just want to start off with an acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands, the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation on which we are meeting today. We recognise their continuing connections to lands, waters and skies. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. I did just want to make a note for people online. Can everyone see and hear us? Just want to make sure that that's all good. Can everyone in the chat, or maybe just anyone post into the chat if you can see and hear us, or just maybe... Yes, all good, perfect. So we have done that before, and then 10 minutes into the webinar, no one could see or hear us. So thank you everyone for that. Cool, so we'll do a bit of an introduction. So my name is Tyler, and I head up our overseas recruitment team, based mostly out of our office here in Melbourne. I've been working with ANZUK UK for about 6 years, and I lived in the UK from 2016 to 2020. Originally a PE health teacher from out in the west, Altona in Melbourne, and went over to the UK, bought a one-way ticket, had a few friends who were living over there, went over with my partner, and absolutely had one of the best experiences I've ever had. I taught for about a year, which was great. Had a contract role in a school out in West London, and then done some casual teaching too. So I was able to get a good broad experience in the classroom, and then spent my last 3 years working in our ANZUK UK London office as a consultant. Moved home in 2020, and yeah, pretty much since then, I've been helping educators such as everyone in the room and everyone online, making that journey onwards to the UK. Moving to over in England is, I say England, we also support England and Wales, but I personally lived in England, was definitely one of the best decisions I ever made. And yeah, really passionate and excited to, speak to people in the room and online about your journeys ahead. My favourite country, there's a long list, I'm sure everyone's got a long list themselves, is Greece. It has been very hot in Greece recently. When I went there, it was only in the 30s. It's been in the 40s recently. But it is an unbelievably amazing place. So if you do get a chance to go there, make sure you chuck that on your bucket list.
And yeah, I'm Liv Olivia. I'm originally from New Zealand. And so yeah, I moved to London after I finished my primary teaching degree. And yeah, I moved over, I was pretty fresh, 21, and I did a bit of supply teaching over there initially, and I actually ended up in a recruitment job over there. So that's what I did for majority of my time. I was in London, so that was 2017 till 2019, and then I moved home because my visa expired. I was meant to move to Melbourne, then obviously the pandemic happens, so I moved here. I finally got here last year, and yeah, I love Melbourne. I originally joined on our schools team as a recruiter, so get all local support work, and then I joined the global team in October, so nearly a year. And yeah, I work with everyone going over to the UK, so it's really exciting. I went over there recently for a few weeks, and yeah, I live in London, but yeah, the UK is a great place. And then favourite country is Ireland. I went there a couple of times, and that's so lovely, the Irish people. So yeah, that was my favourite. I think Alicia is on. Woohoo!
It has been an absolute nightmare joining in, but I'm here.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can in the office. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, hi, I'm Alessia. I was a teacher back in Melbourne for a bit, so I taught in the Western Suburbs for about 4 years. Then I decided to get something different after COVID, moved to London. Taught in London for a year across pretty much the south of London, and then decided to do something a little bit different. And I joined the office as a consultant in January. So I've been here working in the Northwest team for the last 8 months or so, and been really liking the change. And I get to kind of like help educators do the same thing I did, which is really nice. It's probably my favorite part of the job. And my favorite country is definitely Scotland and Italy, because mainly my family's there, but they're my two favorite places.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alessia. And a small world in the sense, Alessia, when she was moving over to the UK, I was lucky enough to be her consultant, helping her move over to the UK back in 2021. So Alessia and I, have been speaking, obviously on the educator side, but now internally too. So done the full circle, Alessia, which is exciting. Yep. So we're going to throw to a poll, our first one. We will have a few polls. So thank you everyone for wanting to jump on and be involved. So everyone online, if you can post into the chat, that would be amazing. Where are you from? And then what we'll do whilst everyone is posting to the chat, if we can just go around the room and just say, obviously I know Melbourne, but we can say whereabouts in Melbourne. So Sam, did you want to say where you're from?
Coburg in Melbourne. I'm from Footscray, Abbotsford.
I'm from Glenroy.
Diamond Creek.
Diamond Creek, amazing. We've got a good mix here, which is good. So we usually have a few Kiwis on the call that are in from New Zealand.
Elena from Christchurch.
Yes, great. And the reason we want to do this online in person, so the people who can't make it obviously in person, there's an opportunity to be online as well. And Jade, amazing to see someone from Altona. That I am from Altona myself, and I don't see this every day, someone else from Altona. So great, nice, really, really good stuff. Awesome. So what we'll be covering, as everyone can imagine, there's a lot that goes into moving countries. It's not the same as moving from Altona to Sydney. There is a wee bit more involved. So the idea for today will be that we'll introduce a heap of topics, but we won't deep dive into any of them too much. Well, the idea would be that we want to give everyone an understanding of all the important things to know in the journey. So that way you can come back and revisit it at a later point. And you can sort of do some more further research with our team or by yourself as well in your own time. We've got lots of resources. As mentioned, this will all be shared. We'll touch on when to go, why you might want to move, when's the best time to arrive, the visas, types of work available, relocation bonuses, compliance, community events, setting up for life in the UK, touch on some PD opportunities and that too. And a real big part of ANZUK UK is the events and the community that we want to create. So you can see in the bottom right corner, I was lucky enough to go to the UK and help host one of our welcome events. So for everyone online, amazing, we do have everyone online, we did order pizzas, so hopefully everyone else has a nice dinner in front of them. But we do have some pizzas coming into the office, so we'll dish those out as we go. But essentially, we want to make sure that you're invited to plenty of events and stuff like that before you go and when you get to the UK. Alessia is calling from our London office, where we be able to welcome you there, but we will be able to invite you into our other offices in London, so in Bristol, Surrey, Wales as well. Just sorry for 1 sec, we're just going to sort the diet. Nice. I could take this the slide for you if you want. Yeah. Cool. So we'll do an introduction to ANZ UK education. So everyone on the call may or may not be familiar with ANZ UK, but we'll give you an introduction just in case that you're not. So we very much are a global education company. So we've got offices around the world in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and over in the USA. And the biggest thing for us will be supporting you on your journey, whichever direction that is and whenever that is for everyone, because we know it is a big move, as we've mentioned, and we know we want to make sure it's the right time for you. But if you're looking for work locally in Melbourne before you go to the UK, we can support in early childhood, primary, secondary, casual, contract and permanent roles. It might even be on the flip side back when you return after a stint over in the UK. So want to make sure we stay connected with you throughout your journey and offer that 360 support. And if you want to jump over the ditch and go to New Zealand, there's those opportunities available as well. Unfortunately for the USA, it is for USA passport holders only, or anyone who's lucky enough to win a green card. For us on the call, we will on the call and in person, we will focus in on opportunities in the UK. So we do have another poll. So Liv has had to think on her feet and get all the plates. So I will take control of this one. So we throw to a poll. So everyone just want to post into the chat, what is your background in education? So whether you're a teacher, 3 years, or a teaching assistant support staff, or whatever it is. So just what is your background in education? And Cassie, yes?
That's right.
Cassie, if you want to go your background in education.
So upper primary for 13 years.
Amazing. Norman?
Yeah, I'm a secondary school teacher. Yeah. I've been working for more than 2 years already. Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Alana?
Primary, and this is my 4th year.
Awesome.
Early childhood educator.
Perfect.
Secondary, this is my 7th year.
Amazing. So good. And we've got a good mix online as well, which is really, really positive. So we've got a couple science teachers, primary support staff as well, which is great. So a good mix. And for the support staff, teachers, everything qualifies over, or for teachers more, so everything qualifies over to the UK, which we'll talk about. And support staff, you don't need to have a set qualification or experience in that sense. But there's lots of opportunities in the support staff space, regardless of the level of experience that you have. Amazing. Cool. Sweet. Liv, did you want to jump in on this one?
Yes. ANZUK, we're a super value driven company. Our values are be great, which is belief, equity, growth, relationships, empower, attitude, and team. So that's like our core part of our agency as a whole, our company. And within that, creating exceptional experiences for educators, for clients across the board, students. That's really at the heart of what we do. Making sure that's always the right educator, the right place at the right time. So everyone's journey is super different, whether they're going, in a week or like 5 years. Everyone's the right time for them, and making sure that it's the right place, whether that's in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Wales, or wherever it might be. So and
everyone will find like we might want to go at different times, which we'll throw to in a little bit too. Like some people might want to be really keen to go in the next 3 months. Sometimes it's the next 2 years, and anything in between. So but Alessia, give us the scoop. So we're all down here in the peak winter. You obviously got an exciting time up in the European Northern Hemisphere in summer.
Yeah, look, not going to lie to you all. The summer in London is an absolute lie. It has been completely raining and dark skies the whole time. We've just gotten blue sky and sun today, so everyone's really excited in the office today. But yeah, apparently, there's a rumor going around that skips the summer. So 1 year will be really nice, 1 year will be really bad. So this is the bad year. So hopefully next year, when you guys do make the move over, it'll be a nice hot summer like last year and have a bit of a heat wave, which would be some sort of sun would just be nice, just to kind of pull us through. So coming up, start of September will be the new school year. So that's kind of big busy time for us at the moment. So a lot of our jobs, we have been working on getting teachers placed ready to go for September. And then that's our biggest one. And then the next biggest one will then start in January. So a lot of the teachers back, as you know, the school year finishes in Australia and New Zealand. So we do find quite a lot of people do come towards that September start and then going towards January. So we do have quite a lot of jobs going for both teachers and support staff going for that January start too, because schools do love our Aussie educators and our Kiwi educators. So they do kind of they look forward to that January start. So we definitely they're probably our biggest times of the year that we definitely look forward to is probably our September and our January start. So we will have our next educator event. I believe it's towards the end of September, kind of early October time, once everyone's kind of settled in. And we kind of welcome everyone that's arrived over the summer holidays, so around August. And then we kind of get everyone into the office and get to, welcome to London towards then. So it's a really nice time. We get everyone in the office. We had a festival last, I think it was in May. It was a huge music festival here. We had DJs and everything. So anyone that arrived in the first 3 months before then came up into the office to meet everyone in person. So our next event will be in October, which will be really exciting.
Yeah, and they're great fun, those events, especially a quick question on people in the room. Are you traveling by yourselves, everyone, or partner? Partner. Okay, yeah, bit of a mix. Online, obviously, it's not a poll question, but most people do travel by themselves. Obviously, these events that Alessia mentioned, it is such great ways to meet people, which we'll obviously talk about on this slide here as well.
So pretty much I'm pretty much you guys, as Tyler said before, about 2 years ago. So I was pretty much starting my move over. I kind of just wanted to do something a little bit different, kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit. The school that I was working at was the same school I went to as a child. So I was kind of very much in my comfort zone. I knew exactly what I was doing. So I kind of just wanted to do something a little bit different. And London seemed like the best opportunity. And, they do love Australian teachers here. And I thought I was I was told that when I moved here, oh, they love Aussie teachers. And no, actually they do, especially moving into this role. They absolutely love Australians and Kiwis here. So it's quite easy to find jobs, and we're very in the education field, they do love that we're trained quite in a higher ability than some other countries do. So that we are quite renowned around here, which to our own horn, that's probably a good thing. Even moving back to Australia, it's kind of good, that it'll come up on your resume that you have taught in London or in the UK. It does look really, really good because so that always helps. So if you are coming here for a year or two or even 6 months, it does look really good on your resume that you do have that experience teaching here in the UK. It does help with career development. So you can have, it's really quite common to get quite good leadership experience here. So, heads of departments, heads of subjects and things like that, because it does quite there's quite a lot of movement. So if you are wanting to move up in the leadership aspect, that is also something you can have moving back with you back to Oz or wherever you're from. And it's just like the travel, like I was saying to Liv and Tyler before, I'm off to Morocco on Saturday. So I'll be traveling in Morocco for 10 days. And then I'm off to Italy straight after that. So the travel, and the best thing about the UK term is that we have a break every 6 to 7 weeks for a week. So if you're wanting to travel, which is what mainly a lot of people like doing here, you can take the week off during the term and just go travel somewhere new, which is super exciting. So, and it's so close. It's like an hour flight to Rome, and it's like less than 50 quid, which is like 25 Australian. So that's always a good plus too. The travel is amazing.
And the novelty of booking a trip and jumping on Skyscanner and clicking Bristol anywhere or London anywhere. We ended up on a ski trip, myself and my friends over there, to Bulgaria for a week, just because it was a real cheap trip and it was real good snow there. So it's definitely a really cool way to experience a new country. One poll which we haven't done yet, which we do love a poll here. So we'd love to know, has everyone actually been to the UK before? So everyone just wants to post into a chat a yes, a no, or even when you went if you like, but we'll throw it to people in the room. So we'll go back this circle again just to mix it up. Sam, have you been before?
Yeah, I was there 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God, yes.
You win.
Yeah, how was it?
Yeah, it was really good. I went there for a wedding.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, we'll keep going around.
Once as a teenager.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been a few times. Yeah.
I've never been to the UK.
Never been.
No.
Yeah.
A few times, most recently, this time last year.
Yeah.
Amazing. So good. Yeah, good mix. Actually, no, everyone, no, Norman, you hadn't been. Yeah, so everyone else had. Yeah. Great.
I
And
hadn't
then
been either when I moved over. I didn't been, so yeah.
awesome. Great. And then, yeah, pretty good mix online as well. So thanks everyone for posting in there. But you can see there's a big mix of people that have not been. So what we look to do from here, just to give you a bit of a lay of the land, what could be ahead for everyone. People online may or may not be already having a conversation with one of our team. And then I'm pretty sure people in the room haven't had maybe 1 or 2 calls yet before. But essentially from here, what we look to do, and if you haven't had it already, is have initial contact with our Global Opportunities team here in Australia and New Zealand, with Liv or myself. And then we have Claire and what will be soon Matilda, who'll be looking to have an introductory call with everyone just to learn more about your plans. Then we look to take the next step at the right time. And that right time is going to be dependent upon your plans, when you want to go. But if it's within 12 months of your intent to arrive, so let's just say, August next year, we get you in contact with our UK schools team. And that might be someone like Alessia, someone from our Bristol office, someone from our Wales office, someone from our Surrey office, or in London. And then we continue that relationship, learn about your plans, find out how we can best support. And then when you get closer to the date, and this might be, 3 months of contact, or it might be a year's worth of contact, that will depend on yourself. We get our compliance team to reach out. So we'll touch on the compliance requirements in the next couple of slides, because everyone needs to be compliant to work in the UK. So references, police checks, and all that sort of stuff. Then you do an online registration. So that will happen before you go to the UK. And then our goal is that you're cleared to work before you jump on the plane. So that way you can, enjoy your travels, go to Italy, go to Spain, find a place to live, all those really important things. And then not so long after that, whenever you arrive, we get you into the classroom and then welcome you to the ANZUK UK community. That's pretty much it. Those 6 are like at a high level, if you would. So there's a lot more that goes into it behind that. And you'll have 1,000,001 questions to ask that we'll hopefully be able to answer all of them in along the way. But that's just a bit of a snapshot. So a lot of people will be here. But yeah, we'll work with you to make sure that we get you all the way over to here into the UK. Cool. So another question, when is the best time to arrive? So that's obviously a really big question that we get all the time. The UK term dates are completely different to the term dates here in Australia. So they start, in the UK, it starts in September and then finishes in July, essentially. So we're in the summer break now, which is great. And the new academic year in 2023-2024 academic year will start in September. As Alessia mentioned, you get a half-term break every 6 or 7 weeks. And when's the best time to arrive depends upon what sort of work you're looking for, really. If you're wanting a contract, you want to start in a role ongoing, we recommend to aim to arrive at the start of one of the terms, so the autumn, spring or summer term. Ideally, if you want a long-term role, September and January can be the best times to arrive. They usually are, but you can get on contract roles for April as well. So if you are thinking you want to arrive before the summer, it's not to say you won't get a contract. It's definitely possible, but there are a lot more contracts that start in September and January. So there's something to keep that in mind. If you're wanting to do supply teaching, pick a date, drop a pin, you can land whenever you want. The biggest consideration is just the term dates at the back end of the year, like term 4, it is here, gets a little bit quieter for supply. Start of September, a little bit quieter for supply, just because most teachers are in.
Supply teacher CRT.
Same thing.
Same
Yeah,
thing. Cool.
yeah.
Language.
Exactly. Yeah. So great point there, Cassie. Yeah. And that's one of the little nuances in the UK, which is a few points on here. Supply teaching is the same as CRT. Bank holidays are public holidays. When you're in a UK school, it's a head teacher, not a principal. It's break, not recess. So the students, it's definitely not soccer, it's football. So you'll pick up all these little nuances as you go. But we'll speak with you and help you find the best time that suits you. Another poll. I promise there's 2 left, maybe 3. So everyone online, does everyone just want to post into the chat when you are looking to go to the UK? So if you don't know, that's fine. Just chuck a random date down. We'll go back the other way. So Cassie, when are you looking to go?
Kicking ties at the moment, but I'm thinking September 24.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think maybe Jan 2025 for me.
Yeah, great. Nice. Yeah.
December.
This year?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Sometime 2024.
Yep.
Sorry, I just have blank. March next year.
March next year. Great. Nice. A lot of people thinking, obviously next year, but the 3 months, Alana, for yourself, is it plenty? No, about four months actually. It's plenty of time. The biggest thing is the visa application, which we'll touch on, giving yourself enough time for that and just preparing, making sure you got like your finances in order and stuff like that. So, but if you're, raring to go, you could literally leave within a month if you really wanted to, but we say allow about 3 months because it gives you time to be prepared and stuff like that.
One quick question, because I'm over 30, I have to wait for the youth visa to change over in January, or am I able to apply sooner than that?
Excellent question. So for everyone on the call who may be in a similar boat, it's actually the next slide as well, which is good. I forgot that was the next slide. So we'll talk about that as well. So essentially the Youth Mobility Scheme visa is currently an under 31 2-year working holiday visa. In New Zealand, it's changed. Now we actually need to update this slide so it's very clear that New Zealand has already changed. It changed on June 30th, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then for Australians on January 31st, it changes to a 3-year under 36 working holiday visa. So you can apply for that if you're in that new bracket of age qualification from January 31st. So you can't apply on January 30th. You have to wait for that January 31st date. So it's a bit of suspense in a way, but that date and that time will change. And that date is January 31st. You can apply for 2 years. And then you can apply for a 3rd year, so long as your visa remains active. So if everyone on the call thinks they want to do 3 years, you apply for 2, and then you apply for the 3rd before you finish your 2nd year, if that makes sense. So everyone, it's a pretty straightforward process. We have a visa support team who can assist with the visa application process itself. But it's fundamentally everyone gets it who applies for it. Costs £1,200. Within that £1,200, you get full access to the National Healthcare Service, the NHS. It's a pretty streamlined process to apply for. It can take, we say 3 to 10 just to allow for the whole process, just in case there's a delay, but they really are coming back within a week or two. So if you've got every all paperwork in order, it's a pretty smooth process. If you're lucky enough to have a British grandparent, and you can prove that they were born in the UK and you have the birth certificate, you can apply for an ancestry visa. The other option is a skilled worker visa if you're not eligible for any of these visas on the left. And that would be at the currently only secondary teachers. If you're in for overseas educators, that is, if you're in the UK and you're loving it there, you could get the skilled worker visa with any of these subjects once you finish your 2 or 3 years. But that would be when you're over in the UK, if you're like a primary teacher and you want to stay. But yeah, any, unfortunately, primary teachers or early childhood educators on the line, we just aren't able to support currently for educators in that space at the moment. And then luckily, anyone who's a Melbourne Uni grad or a University of Queensland grad, you can apply for a HBI visa, which is a new visa that came out last year. And you can apply within 5 years of your graduation for that one. But if you're eligible for the youth mobility, this is the most common. We recommend to go over on this one because it's the cheapest one out of the lot.
You took by 6 months before, so that means
Up
if
to-
you're
up to 6 months. Yeah.
okay.
So if you're going in March, you can apply from 6 months before March, but you can apply for it.
Yeah,
within,
it'll,
like, from
it'll be like
January.
January.
Yeah,
31st
they come
at
through
midnight.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had someone who they got their visa in 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
it does come through fast.
I
Yeah,
have a sketchy pass, so
yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone ever getting
No.
back from that visa. So yeah, everyone should be completely fine, touch wood.
And Penny also wanted to know, can you start the application before January 31st, or do you have to wait until then? You got to wait, don't you think? Don't you?
You can get your paperwork in order,
Yeah.
but you can't apply.
Yeah.
So you could work with our visa support team and get everything in order. But yeah, the portal for the New Zealand applicants didn't open until that day. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, we're about halfway through time-wise, and I think we're about halfway through slide-wise. So I think hopefully we're doing something right. Cool. Well, let's see it. We'll throw back to you.
Yeah, so pretty much we've got offices all across the UK at the moment. So our main one where I am is in London. So if you're wanting more of that city life, that's London's for you. We do also have offices in Bristol and Surrey. They are, it doesn't take, it's about an hour on the train, I would say, to get to central London from those 2 offices. So it isn't too far out. If you're wanting something a little bit more like low pace, if you're wanting something a bit more green, they're definitely like great places to go, and they're beautiful schools around there too. And we also have an office in Newport in Wales. So, there's something a little bit differently around there. It's kind of dependent on what you're really after. Like, I think you can get a train into London, as I said, like, oh, there you go, 38 minutes into London if you are wanting to move out. But it is also good to keep in mind the rate will be a lot cheaper back in like Surrey and Bristol sometimes. But also that was going to say, like, you might have there's more job opportunities. It's just kind of depending what you want, and it is cheaper to rent, and you might need to get a car if you are looking towards the Surrey and Bristol areas. It's not as easily accessible as London may be. So it is like, it's kind of just looking at what you're really after, really moving into where you want to be moving.
Amazing.
Is this still my slide? Yep.
Oh yeah. Will you give maybe a bit of an overview of what it's like living in London, and then you've touched on a little bit on Surrey as well.
Yeah. So London's like, I love living in London. It's great. Like, it's so easily connected if you haven't been before. So you got the tube that pretty much gets you pretty much anywhere you need to go. And you, if you wait more than 5 minutes for a tube, you're kind of like outraged. But it's like, absolutely no, would you wait more than 5 minutes for a tube? I waited 5 minutes yesterday. I was really upset about it. But so yeah, you kind of get used to like having a tube, and it runs all night everywhere you need to go, and it'll get you like pretty much all across London. The only thing with that, it is expensive to use the tube. But you kind of just get used to it. It's kind of like, give and take. Rent in London at the moment, I would say, is probably not 500 to 700 on the slide. I would say the minimum at the moment would be at least £800 for a room. Anything under 800, including bills, is pretty much a steal. So if you are looking, I would say 800 would be the minimum at the moment, especially around September. September is like the busiest time in London to be finding a room. But yeah, that 800 mark, anything less than that, is including bills, is pretty good. So it kind of just depends from there. And yeah, so kind of like, it gets you everywhere you need to go. We've got airports all across London. If you are wanting something a little bit more slower pace, like not in the city of London, you can move towards like Surrey and towards Bristol. As I said before, like they are a lot slower, they're beautiful, they're greens, it's like fresher air, you won't have as much, city life, and the renters generally tend to be cheaper around there too. It's just something to think about with public transport, won't be as easily accessible to some places as you might need to get a car or a bike or anything like that. So it is kind of like contemplating what you're after really, and then go from there.
And Surrey's called very English, the outstanding area of natural beauty. So it's actually like what the area is called. So it is a beautiful place. The schools are great out there as well. And as Alessia mentioned, you can shoot into London relatively easily. All depends on what sort of pace you're looking for. As Alessia mentioned, if you want that hustle and bustle of living in London, you can get that. But yeah, if you want to be able to get easily back into London, Surrey's a really good option too. And Bristol's like almost like a big Fitzroy Collingwood in a way. To liken it to a Melbourne area. It's got a really, really cool vibe. And Wales, a little bit about Wales, like I went there earlier on in the year. It's such an amazing place to live and to teach. Cost of living is well less than half of what you pay in most other areas in England, and the pay rates are usually pretty competitive as well. Our office is in Newport, but our main area where we promote educators to go is actually in Cardiff, so the capital. It's a really cool place to teach. You don't need to speak Welsh either, so you can have no Welsh knowledge at all and you get on absolutely fine. They just encourage you to try and learn it when you're there as well, because it is embedded into the Welsh curriculum, but there's almost no friendlier people to meet than the Welsh when you go there, and the countryside is absolutely beautiful. And then if you might be thinking the cities that we've mentioned aren't for you for whatever reason, we can offer regional locations for contract roles only. Each of these office locations, they are for supply, CRT work, contract and perm roles. If you are thinking like a Birmingham or a Manchester or anything like that, it would be only for a contract role. But most of our opportunities are in the south of England and Wales. Nice. And then getting around, Alessia, this is back to you.
Should we do a poll?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I can see that.
Thank you, Liv. Yeah, you could do this one.
Oh, Queen, no.
Yeah.
Do you know where you're looking to live in the UK or?
London.
Yeah. London, cool.
No,
Not sure. Cool. That's
London.
London,
Yeah,
yeah.
probably London.
London, yeah.
London.
London, cool, yeah.
Emily, Wales sounds nice now. Great. Our
Wales team will like that.
yes, 100%. I'll have to screenshot that now. So
Sold it.
yeah, the beauty of this is if you want to change, it's so easy to change. You could literally arrive in London for 3 months, tell Alessia, who's your consultant, I want to move to Wales, and you can get a job over in Wales in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So you're not locked into any one location. And if you don't know where yet, that's fine. Just get the ball rolling, and then we can assist with just getting you set up, and then you can choose closer to the date. But you could do a year in Bristol, a year in London, and a year in Wales if you wanted to.
Someone's put up there Ireland possibly, is that also on the cards?
Unfortunately, it's not. So it's England and Wales with ANZUK UK. Northern Ireland and Scotland, we can't support, and then Ireland either as well. Just the landscape for an education agency is quite different in those countries. So yeah, just at the moment, England and Wales for us. But great question. Good to pick up.
So getting around, as I kind of spoke about, if you are living mainly in London, you have the tube, which literally gets you everywhere, and it's extremely convenient. As I said, you're not waiting more than 5 minutes for a tube. In the morning, it's every 2 minutes, which is fantastic and gets you where you need to be. There's all different types. You've got the underground, the overground. There's it'll get you anywhere pretty much you need to go, all across London. That pretty much even out. So it's quite convenient about that. You can walk places, especially like in the city of London. You can walk. If you want to, that's really up. If you want, I rather sleep in a bit extra than walk, but you do you. If you want to walk, you walk. That's a choice, especially when it's like dark in the morning, but you do you. What a common thing here at the moment that I'm still getting used to is people cycling. I find it petrifying that here you don't need to wear helmets. Like it's not, I think that's just me living my privileged life in Melbourne, that you have to, if you get your fine if you don't have a helmet on, whereas here you don't need to wear a helmet. And you just see there's 20, 30 bikes, especially in the morning, all in one little area, and half of them aren't even wearing helmets, and that freaks me out a little bit. But people love cycling in London. It's quite convenient, and it's a lot cheaper to ride around here. So it is, very common for people to cycle around and cycle to work too if you're wanting to. A little bit of healthier option. option there. And as I said, it is quite expensive to get a car in London, especially depending on where you live. There's like extra fees that you'll have to pay about using a car, and it's just not convenient. You're going to be stuck in traffic for half the time because it is quite small streets and there's a lot more people living in London. So I would recommend getting a car if you're living further out, maybe not in London. You know, if you're going to like different offices or, you know, regional places, would be a bit more beneficial to have a car compared to having one in London. Although saying that, I do miss my car quite a lot. I miss singing in the mornings before going to work, but you know, yeah, it's just not feasible, I think, to have a car in London.
100%. I personally rode my bike everywhere in London myself, so I highly recommend that. And I know some of the other cities are pretty well commutable too. And Alessia, I didn't always wear a helmet too, I must admit. So, but I do wear one here in Melbourne. So yeah, please don't drop me in. But Liv.
Yes, I was always the bus or the tube when I was over there. But yeah, so we've got heaps of resources. They're constantly being updated. We've got an awesome info pack, which I guess we call the Bible, kind of everything you need to know about. Not just the process, but like, yeah, preparing to fly once you've landed, you know, things like a tax number and like all those bits that you might not think about. Heading over the process and whatnot. It talks about all the compliance and like heaps of detail, just so like you're aware of all that, because obviously, you know, we can go through that, but it's like, so it's all kind of in one place. So you can refer back to over your timeline. However long that might be. It goes through our bonuses, which we'll touch on in a minute. As well as the compliance team, the consultant like Alicia, and then more links, has the term dates, which is so handy. I use it all the time in my calls because it is different to us here in Australia, so try to understand that. And yeah, everything in between, some cards, bank cards. We've got some great living guides, area guides, which we are updating at the moment, so it'll be live shortly. And yeah, again, once you've arrived, things to collect like your VIP card, which is if you're like your permit, your permit as a resident. And yeah, sporting clubs, literally everything that you could probably ever ask or want to know is hopefully in there. If not, let us know, we can add it in.
I've got a question. I don't know whether it's in there.
Yeah.
But how much is recommended to save before you go?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I hear that, like, I've got on that group Aussies in London, and there's all kinds of like amounts.
I know, I was the same when I moved over. It's like, how long's a piece of string, you know? It's so hard. I did a bit of travel before I went over, so I needed to make sure I did a like a Kentucky, so I needed to make sure I had enough money for that month and a little bit more. And then obviously you've got your rent and then your bond, which is usually a month. You're paying your rent monthly over there, so that's essentially, I guess, 2 months of rent ahead. And then plus just general living. So everyone's different. I didn't go over with enough and it was years ago, but yeah, my sister's just gone over, and I don't think you can ever have like too much or like not enough. Do you know, that makes sense? Like I think you always wish you had more.
What would the minimum be?
You need to have you need to have 5,000 Australian dollars minimum to apply for the youth friendly visa. So you can't, and that has to be within your bank account for 28 days before you go. So you sort of need to have that. I'd say, and again, this is like when at the time I'd finished my travel similar to Liv, I'd probably wish I had a bit more money. I had a big 4-month trip before I went there, but I had about, I think it was like 6,000 or 7,000 Australian dollars remaining, and that was fine. If you have 10,000 Australian dollars, just to throw out a number there, you'll be fine. But it's like anything, you know, if you have a bit more in your bank, then you don't have to necessarily solely rely on getting paid that next week to then book a trip to go away, or have a bit more comfortability to go out to see a show in the West End or something, you know.
It depends if you're going to go into work as well straight away, like you're getting paid weekly. So and that's all paid weekly, which is always nice. So at least, I mean, I had no money for like a month just because the way it was kind of working. So like struggle street, but I feel like I'd say 10 grand. I get a number. Like I didn't go with that.
Sorry.
I was fine.
It seems like a common theme.
Just like round it up, you know, make it a nice even number. Obviously, you can always, I mean, you always wish you could have more money, but you can never just keep waiting here to have enough money because that will never happen. But
sorry, Liv, I've had to revert the slides. Apologies, everyone online. I accidentally synced out to our info pack, and it froze where we were. So apologies.
But yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the question. It's a funny one, and everyone's so different, and it depends what you want to do. If you want to travel before you're there, some people go straight into a contract like immediately, like a week after they land. So, I guess the more the merrier. Maybe that. But yeah, that was. I think that was it?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. Oh, sorry, maybe the last point was just on this. We break it up. So really important things to do before you go and when you arrive. So trying to because there's a lot to do, just trying to break it down so that way you don't have to worry about things when you get to the UK before you can do them, because some things you can't, like open a UK bank account. So try to break it up so that way you know that this is what I can do when I'm in Australia or New Zealand. This is what I need to do when I get there. And this links into the tips on finding accommodation, which is usually the biggest question that we get, or one of many big ones, which Alessia will run through just some tips on how to find accommodation. We're probably going to smidge over about 15 minutes to go. So the last few slides, we might roll a little bit quick on some of them, but we'll promise that any of the content we move quickly on. It's not because it's not important. We just don't want everyone to stay online or in the office too late. So Alessia, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah. So the one thing I do recommend, one thing I do myself, and one, when I am talking to some educators moving over, is definitely finding temporary accommodation before you get here. So I stayed at Wombats Hostel, which is quite popular for a lot of people, a lot of Australians moving over. So I was at Wombats for about 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, that's where I kind of just went off and did my viewings for rooms, and I kind of just had a base to go. So I stayed there at the hostel. It is quite common as well to be subletting. So especially around if you're coming around the September, January mark, a lot of people will go home. So it is quite common for people to rent out their rooms for about a month or two. So if you're wanting something, not as a bit more stable, you can look at getting a sublet for a room when you arrive, and you can kind of go from there. The best place to look at those things are like Aussies in London, Kiwis in London. If you're on Spare Room as well, Spare Room is quite big here for when people post up any rooms that they may have, sublets or long term. My biggest advice to you would be to not say yes to a room before you've gotten here. Back home in Melbourne, it's quite common. You could look online for a house and you'd be pretty 9 times out of 10, it's going to look exactly the same as what it is in person. So you'd be pretty confident there. Whereas here, they're very good at making their pictures look a little bit deceiving. So you might be saying yes to a room that's £900 a month, and you get there and it's a little like single bed and a desk drawers, and you're paying £900, not including bills for that room. So I always recommend don't say yes to a room before you've seen it here in person. Especially you kind of want to, move in with, if you're moving into a share room, you're meeting your housemates, you kind of do want to see if you get along with them as well. Most places here are furnished. It's very common to find that all your furniture will be in the rooms that you do find. And sometimes bills are included and sometimes they're not, but most are like, when you're looking at job ads on Spare Room and everything, it'll tell you if they're included or not, and if there's any extra prices that are included into it.
Spot on. And just ask questions and do research as well. Ourselves here over our overseas team, everyone on the team has lived in the UK before, unless you're in the crew, they're actually there. So just ask plenty of questions, do research. You'll hear some and see some weird stories on Aussies in London as well. So don't feel like that's gospel. Sometimes people do have, maybe not the best experience on a search. Does not mean that it's going to happen to you. Sometimes, things just happen with certain individuals and they might not have, a good time. But let's just focus on the good stuff as much as possible. Just do plenty of research, and you'll all be 100% fine. Cool. So work options. Before we go, we did want to throw, because this was a question in the chat, online and in person. Does anyone have any questions on accommodation? Does anyone want to throw out? I know Sam, you just had one before, but does anyone else online have any questions about accom?
It's the number one question we get asked all the time, so we've got into resources as well. I did a blog up last year, which was like a few links. I found both of mine through Kiwis in London. They're like a weekly flatting post. It's not just for Kiwis. Anyone can find a room or a house that way. That was
Do we get a copy of these slides?
Yeah.
Yes.
And our info and blog pack, pack and blog page, everything will be available to everyone. So Alessia, currently, do you need a UK address to open a bank account? I know for some of the banks that you don't. I've just blanked on whether.
There's a bank, an online one called Wise, that you can have your Australian currency and you can have euro and pounds on it. So that's quite common for people already wanting to transfer Aussie dollars down into your pounds. That's quite common. You can use that here in the UK, so you can set that up home. Other than that, like your big banks that you do use here, like your Monzo, your Revolutes, you need to have a UK address to set those up here.
And then Darcy, are there any requirements regarding if you opt to stay with friends, family for visa things? I'm 100% certain on.
No.
Might have to maybe reword that one, Darcy, if you could. And do all rentals have council tax on top of bills? You just need to check. So it will usually be, I think council tax from memory, you do need to pay as an individual, but just check just if it's not included or it's inclusive of your rent. So always ask that question. Really important. Cool. We'll come back to some of these questions. I'm just conscious of time. So work options, we offer essentially what you're looking for is how we want to frame it. So if you're looking for a casual role, a contract role, or ideally potentially even a permanent role down the line, we can help and support you with that. There's pros and cons of all of them. If you're wanting to do supply teaching, flexibility, developing your relationships with different schools, we can offer guaranteed work as an ANZUK UK ambassador. And it's a really good way to then potentially move into a contract role once you're there. Alternatively, if you do want a long-term role, and we really do encourage this just to consider it, even if it's not your first preference, just because there are a lot of benefits that come with it. Job security, developing relationships with staff, students, your pay will increase as well if you work in a contract role. You usually get paid to scale. And we can arrange this before you go to the UK as well. So if you're wanting to have a role lined up prior to arrival, we can arrange this via an online interview. But you can also do this when you get there, but we really encourage just keep your options open and just think like what your ideal role could be. Like maybe it's a 2-day-a-week fashion textiles role in Brixton. If that's your ideal role, we'll try and work backwards from that essentially. So, yeah, you can definitely get a long-term role before you get there as well. Amazing. So over in the UK, has everyone heard of the key stages before in the room? Potentially, if you haven't, it's totally fine. You obviously get lots of exposure to this when you're heading on to the UK and when you get there. But the UK is broken into the curriculum is broken into key stages. So you have early years, which is EYFS, nursery and reception classes in schools, and then you also got the younger years in long form daycare centres. Key stage 1, key stage 2 is primary. And then key stage 3, 4, 5, and 6 is secondary. So the way these key stages work depends upon, like obviously if you're going to be a primary teacher, what level you're teaching in will be like lower key stage 1 will be the type of content you'll be delivering to the students will be within that specific key stage, be relevant to that year group. The difference, one of the biggest differences is when you get to year in secondary schools is year 11 at the end of key stage 4, you have a big testing thing called your GCSEs. It's essentially almost like doing a VCE in Victoria, going for your ATARs, but you do it a lot earlier. And then you have key stage 5 where you do A levels as well. But don't sweat if you're not familiar. There's plenty of time to familiarize yourself with this as we go. And then there's all types of schools in the UK, same as what there is here in Australia, from mainstream schools, private, independent. There's some amazingly good opportunities in pupil referral units and special educational needs schools. So if you're wanting to try something which is outside of a mainstream setting, there's some really, really fun opportunities and really rewarding work in PRU schools and SEN schools. So just let us know that's something you want to do. PRU is behavioural focused schools, and special educational needs schools focus on supporting students who have special educational needs such as autism, dyslexia, Down syndrome, etc. But then we want to know what your ideal role is. And that might be whether it's a co-ed school, single sex, faith school, whatever it is. We want to try and get as close to that as possible. So Alessia and the team can try and find your role in your ideal setting. Cool. And then for support staff online. So there's lots of different roles available for support staff. And you don't need set experience nor qualifications to assist. So even if you're coming over, you've got maybe a partner who maybe is a lawyer or whatever it is, or has a psychology degree, whatever it is. Maybe they want to start off and try something different, or even do 3 to 6 months before they find a job in their field. Those opportunities are available. But teaching assistant roles are super common. Most primary school classes have a teaching assistant in the UK. And generally speaking, you'd be supporting with students who have special educational needs or behavioural focused students as well. In the UK, you can do cover supervision work, which is being in control of the classroom as an unqualified teacher. There is a big teacher shortage in the UK. So the UK education system has thought of ways to try and combat that. So you don't always necessarily need to have a set qualification to be in control of the classroom. Just the responsibility levels differ in terms of what you're doing. Caretaker, groundskeeper, admin, you name it. And we do have referral bonuses as well. So up to $150. If you have anyone in your network who you want to send our way so we can help and support. Once they've worked 10 days, it would be, £100 when you're in the UK, £100, and then 150 beforehand. And these referral bonuses are for local too. So if you refer anyone to work in Victoria, the same thing applies as well. Apologies, we're not pausing for questions here, and we are rolling through these slides pretty quickly. But we've got about 6 to go, and we've got about 6 minutes.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
let's fashion it.
Yeah, so pay rates, relocation bonuses, yeah, definitely a hot topic, obviously, when you know how much you get paid. So it does depend as well on type of work that you're doing, whether that's casual relief or contract. Yeah, so casual relief, it's day to day, you're paid weekly, and it's all done based on your year's experience. And then long-term roles, you're likely to be paid on the main teacher scale, so it does actually increase, whereas a bit different to here, Australia, you're paid sometimes more on a day to day. So it is different, and there's 2 different ways you can get paid in the UK, which is complicated. So you can either go through PAYE, which is called pay as you earn, or an umbrella company. So it's totally up to you, and something that we can send you some more resources on. We don't need to unpack that right now, but yeah, it is a bit complicated. But up to you to make that decision. And like I said, you're paid weekly as well, which is always nice. I was on a monthly pay over there, so a bit of a difference. So yeah, and then in terms of our relocation bonuses, so we've got 2. So our first ones are £200, 250, sorry, ambassador one. That's essentially our guaranteed income. So if you sign that before you head off, once you've worked 90 days, which is essentially a term, you get that paid into your account, your bank account. And then otherwise you got a contract role. So that's you've signed up to a contract of a term or like longer. And yeah, that's £500 back once that's done for that term. So that's quite nice. That pays obviously for probably a trip almost over, or a nice trip around Europe, and whatnot. So yeah, hopefully that answers some main questions. But yeah. Compliance, yeah, also another big one in the UK. The safeguarding over in the UK is super high level, I'd say, compared to, well, definitely from New Zealand, in terms of all the parts that are required. But yeah, the main part really is CV. So that needs to include the last 10 years of your employment, which, and we can help you with this. Don't feel like you need to do this yourself. References, that's the last 2 years, whether that's your teaching assistant or teacher, same thing, and police checks as well. So that is a UK, it's called a DBS, which we can help you with over there. It's a UK police check, and you need either an Australian or a New Zealand police check, depending on where you're from. If you've lived somewhere else for like more than 12 months, you'll need that police check from that country as well. So a few moving parts, and then the overseas trained teacher piece as well. So we have VIT here in Victoria. You can teach in the UK for up to 4 years without having like an equivalent, but the equivalent is called the QTS, which is the qualified teacher status. But you can teach for up to 4 years without it. It is free to do. So if you have your full teacher's registration, go ahead, you can apply for it. Super simple to do. And in Wales, it's a bit different. You need to have that's something we can unpack if you're looking to go to Wales, for sure. So hopefully that answers some questions as well with that. But yeah, 4 years you can teach or work without having that, which is a lot of people.
And we've got quite a handy CV template as well. With your CV, you feel like you haven't updated in a while, with you been in an ongoing role for a couple of years. We can share that CV template with you as well. And then, yeah, if you're looking for a long-term role, just be thinking of your CV like this is what a UK head teacher would be looking at to potentially interview for a role. And we'll provide you lots of consultative support with getting your CV up to, not scratch, but like just getting it to a position where you're quite happy and comfortable with it as well. Cool. Was this Alessia? I think, yeah. Back to you, Alessia.
Yeah, so pretty much we kind of like support you pretty much the whole way through, even when you're here working with us. I went to pre-departure events before I left, which is a good way. I got to meet Tyler in person. I got to meet some people there, and then you get to make those connections. When I did I came by myself, didn't know anyone, didn't have any friends here or anything like that. So it was kind of nice having to meet people that before I left, and then people that were going to be here when I arrived. So that worked out really well. And then we kind of we made teacher groups, and then we all went off traveling everywhere. So most of the friends that I have are all educators through ANZUK, which kind of helped and made my little family here a little bit easier. So that kind of definitely go to your pre-departure events. You never know who you're going to meet. You might be sitting next to someone and you could get a room together when you're over in London or wherever you want to go. So definitely highly recommend the pre-departure events. When you do arrive here, you do become part of our Britbound educator group if you're not already part of it. That's where we do post a lot of things on there, including events and photos and things like that. So definitely get across that. And there's I think there's a chat going on at the moment where people are asking and answering questions through there. And then when you do arrive here in the UK, we do have social events quite often. So you get to come in and you do like a little induction session. We'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into teaching in the UK, what it's like, what to do on your first day when you're walking in, whether you're doing supply or long term, or if you're doing teaching and TA. We'll kind of give you that extra information. You pick up your DBS, you come and meet the team here in the office. We'll take you out for coffee or a drink, depending on what you're after. And then we do social events throughout the year. So you are staying connected and you're getting to meet people that are doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. So it kind of, you do build that community and that base of like having people around you when you're over here.
For sure. And the beauty of over in the UK, so many people, everyone's very much like-minded in the sense that you've made a similar decision to move overseas. So it's really easy to meet people and, make friends, and especially if you are by yourself. And we do an exceptional job of helping facilitate those networks and relationships, but we're not the only way to meet people. The ANZUK, or not even just ANZUK affiliated clubs, just any sporting club when you're over there, but we've got some really good affiliations. They're excellent ways to meet people. If you're arriving in the UK and the AFL football season's on, we have an affiliation with the Wandsworth Demons in the southwest of London. You go past the Clapham Common, and on a Tuesday night training, you might see 120 people running around the park. You need to have a minimum of, I think it's like 7 or 8 internationals on the pitch at any one time. So it's not just literally Aussies playing you. There's French people, British, lots of Irish as well. So yeah, definitely get excited. And even if you're not good, or I shouldn't say not good, even if sport isn't your thing, take that back. So, yeah, it's fun for socials, definitely. Nice. I think, who is this? Okay.
I can go through this. Yeah. So this, why NZUK? There's so many moving parts in terms of things that we offer. Yeah, 360 support, obviously us here in Australia / New Zealand, in the UK as well. Events, community, that's such a huge part of the process and everything. Local and global opportunities. If you're looking to do a bit of CRT, I know Emily, you said that you were online. Info packs, Facebook groups. We've got an awesome blog, which there's like so many resources there, and our LMS, which is like a learning module system. So if you want to do a bit of that, then that is you can do it.
Nice. Pretty much if there's a resource, we've tried to create it to make it easy for people to move, essentially. So
and we also have a partnership with Kentucky. So that is essentially like a bus tour. They go all around the globe, but I did one when I moved over. I met one of my now best friends on one, which she was moving to London too. I had no idea. So we have a competition going with them for the year. Every month there's winners. All you need to do is post a travel picture, whether you're already over there or if you're still in Victoria or New Zealand, and you can post that and you go on the draw to win. And we do have a discount as well if you want to go online, 5% off, which always helps the bank. So does anyone have any questions at all, or online, in person? You can post them in, or feel free to turn your mic on if you're online. And
will my age potentially work against me, or is that not even considered?
No, definitely.
You can't offend.
No, not at all. So the biggest thing would Cassie, would be the visa.
Yep.
Do you have access to?
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. So you get a British passport.
Yeah, I worked over there in 1990, and I had a year of I had right abode.
Oh,
so
great.
I don't know if that's still a thing. Do they have that anymore?
There is that, yes. Yep. But on your first question, 100% no, in terms of like it won't affect you. The lion's share of educators do sort of in the youth mobility age bracket, but it's not everyone. For sure we can 100% help.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to come to all the fun stuff as well, too. Luke included. But we can work with us. 100%. But we can work through that with you as a part of the process on the right to work side of things too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions at all?
Darcy, you've got some real funny ones here. I was trying to read if that was a question or not. We'll be invited to the press shows. Potentially, Darcy. I think so. We've spoken on the phone before, Darcy. So I might throw back to you for that one. You can give us an example. So Eliza, so if I wanted to sign up for casual work to start would this be enough to get by for the first few months? Would you recommend? So yes, definitely. It touches on Sam, your point before, just around like how much savings you might want to have and when you want to arrive. if you want to arrive in May, as an example, you're only going to have about 2 months of casual teaching before you have to have 6 weeks off. So it's just about being, for the summer that is, just about planning for how much, you feel like you're going to spend on your trips and, how much you're going to then travel, over the summer perhaps. But you're, working as a casual teacher, the rate of pay is very competitive and very workable to live off it. You just need to save, obviously. As an educator, a teacher, it isn't the highest paid profession, in particular in London, but it's definitely a wage which, as long as you're smart with your savings and your spending, you can live, somewhat comfortably off a teacher wage for sure. Great question.
Tyler, I might just jump in a little bit as well. I think it's one thing I didn't know moving over here, you kind of learn as you go, is that it is quite common here in the UK for there to be quite a lot of turnaround in your schools. So I know back home it was very uncommon for a teacher to leave even at the end of the year compared to leaving throughout the year. So here in the UK, there is quite a lot of turnaround, there is quite a big teacher shortage. So it is quite common, it is very popular for schools. We're consistently, here in the London office especially, we're consistently working on roles throughout the year. So it is, if it's something that you're wanting to do supply work when you are doing, you can, which is fine. You got your ambassador contract too. That's an option for you. But then if you are wanting to move into long term, it is also an option for you. They do come up quite regularly throughout the year. So if you are wanting a little bit more consistency and going to that school and you get to a point where you want that, there's definitely opportunities that do present themselves throughout the year in comparison to back home when it's generally towards the end of the year or starting towards the terms.
Yeah, amazing. Great. So, and everyone feel free to stay online for as long as we like. Anyone online, you can feel free to take your camera off mute if you wanted to ask a question, but we'll work through these questions in the chat. So we got Helena. I will arrive on Jan 15th, just after the cutoff. Could I organise a contract for next term and supply teach for that? Yes.
Yeah. I would say that schools over in the UK have a bit of flexibility as well. They know that the school year, correct me if I'm wrong, but have a bit of flexibility with that start date because they know that we finish our school year at the end of December and have that summer break. So people can't always get over there for that first day of term. But and if you're looking for a contract come Jan, otherwise you can definitely supply teach. You may even go to a short-term contract. So that's anywhere from, I think, 6 weeks up to, school term to longer. So that can be an option as well.
Some schools will wait too, for the right teacher, Helena. I'm obviously not sure of your experience or whatever, but I've had a teacher when I was in the UK start at the end of January because it was a quite a strong history teacher. School had a really good interview and they waited to the end of January. Recommend start of the term, but it's not to say that, you can't get a job before then. And then Frederica, we've actually spoke before, Frederica, I reckon almost 2 years ago. So it's amazing to see you online. So it is easy to switch, definitely. So it's a new registration process. So there's new compliance requirements, but if you're working with us here locally, it is a pretty straightforward process and you're already familiar with ANZUK UK. We've got a really cool app called Ready to Work. The app stays the same. So you can go over and the biggest change is you're working in UK schools and you're probably going to get the tube to school instead of driving. And you have English or Welsh kids in front of you at the end of the day. But great question, Federica. Adam, if you do some supply work, will it be different schools every day or can it be at the one school? So in the perfect world would get you work as consistently as possible in either one school or a small group of schools, but it does vary. You might have a week where you do teach at a few schools, but if you have a really good day at a school, the way I like to liken it is treat every day like it's a job interview, because you never know what that school needs on that given day. And you might just literally bump into the head teacher and they might need someone to be there for the next 6 weeks. So, every opportunity you get to ask questions, to meet the cover coordinator or the whoever it is who might be booking in the supply, just making sure you're putting your best foot out there as well, so we can get you back to the same schools as consistently as possible. Cool, but great question. Emma, I saw an English job in Wimbledon advertised online. Liv used to live in Wimbledon, so it's a great place. Is this something I could try and go for? Would potentially go earlier for the right job. So if it's advertised online, which might be on, potentially like the TES platform, you could definitely apply for that job independently yourself, if you did see it online for sure. We do find a lot of schools for overseas applicants will tend to go through an agency such as ANZUK UK to support the process, in particular with the compliance requirements as well. as you've seen, there is a lot that goes into clearing an educator to work in the UK, and there's a lot that goes into the support process. So a lot of schools we work with sometimes don't even advertise roles, and they will come directly to us as an agency, or potentially another. If you're see your job, you can 100% apply for jobs independently, but I work with our team, and then we might be able to find you, or at the very least we could give you advice on that specific school as well. Then we offer interview preparation, interview guides and stuff like that too. So definitely give you a lot of support in that process. Hopefully that answered that question, Emma, but a really, really good question.
Yeah, cool, thanks. That one, was advertised through ANZUK. It wasn't just like a random one, but yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. So the Southwest would be so after this, if we could get you in contact with James Platt, who's one of the lead consultants on our Southwest London schools team, and we can try and tee up a conversation with that with yourself, Emma, to take those next steps there.
Yeah, no problem. I just thought I'd check. I can email the email that was put up on there as well. That's
perfect.
Probably yes. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So good.
I wanted to ask, what constitutes a long-term contract? Like, how short's a long-term contract? How long's a long-term contract?
Alessia, I was going to say, did you want to answer that one? Because I know you've
So for long term, we would say generally it would be about 4 weeks, anything more than 4 weeks. And it does change. Like a long term for us would still be like a term, even up, up to like minimum would be around the 4-week mark that you're staying at a school. In saying that as well, like I signed up for a long term role before I arrived in the UK, and that kind of worked for me, just knowing where I was going. But it is very common. The best thing I found working with ANZUK with getting on a long term role is that even if you get to the school that you haven't been and you've already signed up to the contract and you're 2 weeks in and you're like, oh, this isn't the right fit for me. Like I just don't feel, I don't really want to, there might be, it could be anything really, just might not be the right fit. The best thing about working with ANZUK is that we can just take you out of that school and we can put you in a different school, so that there's still quite a lot of flexibility around that if you're needing it. But yeah, definitely a long-term role I would say would be around the 4 weeks, anything more than that moving forward.
How many weeks is a term? I know there's a break in between.
12 to 13
12 to
ish,
13.
12 to 14, and then you get a half term break. So 3 terms, but then you get the half terms in the middle. So essentially like 6 terms across the year.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Amazing. Well, everyone, thank you so much. Everyone online, we probably didn't address this at the start, but I mentioned it probably about 5 times. Everyone in the room. This actually was the first time we've ever done this online and in person. I actually was on mute every time I said that. I should have probably addressed that to the people online. But hey, never late than never. So thank you so much. We're really excited to talk with you about your plans moving forward. If anyone has any questions, do let us know. We will send a follow-up email with the slides, with the recording, so you can relive the magic at a later date. Within the email will be a link to book a call with one of our team. And I think we might even chuck a survey in there as well, just so that way everyone can give us a bit of feedback on the first time we have done this. So thank you. Everyone in the room, feel free to stick around for a moment if you like. Alessia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone online as well.
Do we have to fill this out?
No worries, guys. Have a good night.
Terms.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. How were the pizzas, everyone, as well? They were good.
That was good.
Yeah.
I think it's called
Thin Slizzy.
Thin Slizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just across on, I think, is it Johnson?
So the January is,
Yeah.
so 1st of January they start.
The 8th of January.
Also the dark green's the holidays. And then the dark blue.
Dark green is the holidays.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, we'd be confusing at first glance.
Yeah, you know what, I'm going to take a photo of it.
Yeah.
We'll see this up here as well.
Yeah, take a photo if you want. Yeah, but we send all this and this is on our blog page as well, so you can find it online.
Yeah.
The one thing to note is that England and Wales is slightly